Attic rooms that have a really cool space in your house or a pain in the ass to deal with. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how I got from this to this. Stay tuned, find out. So this room is located in an old Victorian house in Bedminster in Bristol. It's generally an up-and-coming area full of young professionals, first-time buyers. It's a suburban area, but it's also full of independent restaurants and bars, loads of graffiti and artwork everywhere. There's markets on a Sunday. Yes, trendy coffee shops, a lot of trendy coffee shops, but generally a really nice area. The flat is an old Victorian terrace, converted from a single-use house into 2 flats in the early 2000s. Now for the floor plan. Now this attic room is quite good because it has a private staircase that leads directly to the room with a door at the bottom. The floor plate at least is quite wide, takes up a good majority of the flat. But like all attic rooms, it's got limited head height. It's got areas in the back of the eaves. 2 eaves, one in particular, is quite low in terms of head height. So that area will probably be best served as storage. The other side you can use as storage, but you can also fit things like desks or maybe a wardrobe, depending on how you arrange it. Now the middle section is probably where you're going to get the most standing. So that might be where you decide to put your bed. Or if there's any activities you want to do in the room, I don't know, some people do yoga or something.
What do you mean by that?
Then that's probably the best place to do it.
Got him.
Okay, so its current arrangement has the bed towards one gable, very close to the end, opposite the staircase. Desk opposite the bed, so it acts as a monitor as well as a TV. An open clothing rail in between the 2 Velux windows. A bookshelf temporarily being used as clothing storage. Starting with below the eaves. Now, I was umming and ahhing as to how to arrange this. I went through a few options, but I settled on including 2 MALM drawers as either side of the eaves. Now, these will be raised on platforms that will be on wheels. The idea is that they aren't as deep as the eave, so there's space behind them. I wanted to be able to roll them out so I can store long-term items behind there if I wanted. In the middle, there'll be a sliding door system so you can access both sides of that middle section. That will act as a headboard for the bed, coming later. And then on top, you have the KALLAX unit. Now, naturally, because of the MALM drawers are going to be rolling out, you don't necessarily want to put a bedside table in front of that. It will be very awkward to move around. But I still wanted storage for easy bedtime, items. So I decided to put that storage above the headboard so it's easily accessible, but just out of the way of the drawers. Now for the bed. Because there is limited head height in this attic room, placing the bed has limited options. There has been a few times where I've hit my head, and I've hit my head hard. So I decided to go for a low platform bed. At least then when I'm in the bed and I sit up suddenly for whatever reason, I'm not going to be in danger of hitting myself. Now, that headboard that we mentioned earlier, I want to access it. So this bed will be on a low platform that will also be on wheels, which means I can slide it left or right, depending on which side of that storage I want to access. And don't worry, these walls are quite good. They have a 200 kilo limit and they are lockable. Now for the eaves on the opposite side of the room. Now this section is the one that's under the Velux windows. Again, I divided it into 3 parts. Because there's 2 radiators, you don't necessarily want to put them in cupboards. You'll block the heat. It may be a fire hazard. Generally not a good idea. You can enclose them, but they need to be vented. So I divided it into 2 sections. The 2 sections around the radiator obviously will be vented, so they won't necessarily be used for storage, but they'll blend in quite nicely. And the middle section is what will be used for storage. They will have doors similar to kitchen cabinets. Now here's the thing with storage. Just because something is designed for a room doesn't mean you can't use it somewhere else. I love the idea of repurposing what should be a wardrobe into toy storage, or what should be a chest of drawers into a cabinet for gadgets. Furniture can be used for all different purposes, so get creative with how you do it. Now for the wardrobe. This part is tricky because there is 1 limited head height and 2 limited depth. The best location I could find for this wardrobe is just opposite the stairs, which meant it can't be too deep because it will block the passageway from when you come up the stairs into the room, as well as get in the way of one of the Velux windows. So I decided to design a wardrobe that has forward facing rails. So instead of hanging your clothes sideways, you hang them facing forward. And these rails can be pulled out so you can still see all your clothes. I designed this wardrobe to fit with the angle of the gable on the right side with storage above. The wardrobe internally is divided up into 3 sections. One for the clothing rail, one for the shoe rack, and a few cubbies underneath for things like towels and bedding and that kind of thing. I finished the wardrobe with double doors, that is then covered in mirrors, so there can be mirror in the room for when I want to check myself out and get ready, you know. Now for the desk. The desk is tricky because initially I thought about having the desk directly under the window. It makes it good for video calling because you get direct light, but at the same time I didn't want the focus of the room or when I'm in bed to be on the TV. So I decided for a slightly different approach. I put the desk as a wall attachment on the opposite gable to the wardrobe, and I divided it up into 2 shelves. The idea is that I wanted that depth that I have on my original desk, but I don't want it to take up that much space. So this dividing up into 2 shelves allows me to almost give a throwback to those pull-out computer tables that we had back in the early 2000s. So when it's in use, I can pull it out and I can enjoy that depth. And then when it's not in use, I can put it back in. It can take up far less space, and then the chair can quite easily slide underneath. Now for the floors. Initially, I was going to go with carpet. Currently, there is carpet in here, and I thought it would be a good idea to keep. But considering that there are so many things on wheels, I wanted to provide a flooring that makes it easy to roll those things around. So hardwood seemed to be the best solution. But I also wanted a rug to tie the place together. So I included the rug, but I put it towards the end of the bed. So when I'm at my computer, I'm not always touching hardwood, but when I do want to move the MALM drawers forward or roll the bed out the way, most of the floor that is hardwood, so it should be a lot easier to do so. Now for the final results. Under the Velux windows, on one side of the eave, you have what should be 3 separate pieces of furniture, nicely tied together with clever cabinet trickery. You've got the desk on the right side, you've got the central storage unit, which has storage inside, then you have the wardrobe on the left side. To the opposite side of that room, you get the bed on a nice low platform, flanked by 2 MALM drawers. It seems seamless, and like I said, you can roll them out of the way for easy storage. Okay, if you like that video, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and stay tuned because there are more design tips to come. But until then, take it easy.